All right, welcome back. Now, if you're using the same animations I'm using, you probably noticed an annoying little problem with one of our attack animations. And that animation is our standing 360-degree swing, which is probably the coolest animation on the planet. So it's unfortunate that it has this issue. And if you haven't noticed that issue, I'm going to show it to you. Going into my characters animations folder, here's the attack. It's this standing 360 animation. Now, you can't see it from the front, but from the back you can. And it's this canister here. If you notice, it's kind of flipping around. And this is kind of an annoying problem, especially since this animation is so cool. And the cause of this problem is a little bit hard to figure out. It's kind of hard to see what's actually making that canister flip around like that. So I'm going to show you a few useful tools that you can use to debug your projects and kind of figure out what's going on with those animations. Now, in order to test this animation properly, it'd be nice if we didn't have random animations. So I'm going to hop back into my play attack montage function in /character and simply hardcode attack 2 into both of these switch cases so that I always get that attack 2 animation, which is the 360-degree attack. And hopping back into my editor, I can hot reload. And now I should always play that second attack animation, and we can see the problem. So if I press the left mouse button, I get the animation. And we can see that canister kind of flipping around like that. What is causing that? It's kind of hard to know. So I'm going to show you a very useful trick you can do. You've already seen that we can show all collision volumes if we hit the tilde key and type show collision. And that's going to help us out a little bit. If we attack, we see those collision volumes. But it's still kind of hard to see what's happening here. So what we can do is enable slow-mo or slow motion. And this is enabled by hitting tilde and typing SLOMO, slow-mo. And we can scale time a bit by putting in a fraction. So if I put 0.1, then everything will happen at 1/10 of the speed. So if I go ahead and click the left mouse button, we see that we're attacking very slow. And this can be a nice, useful tool to make it easier to see what's going on. So let's look at that canister and see what's happening when it flips over. And it's about to happen, and there it is. And look what's happening. That arm is pushing it up. So it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's bouncing around and reacting to the character's physics asset. Remember, these little collision volumes here, these capsules are all physics bodies, which belong to the physics asset. And we can see that it's the arm that's causing this problem. It's hitting that canister. So this is an issue, but luckily it's an issue that we can fix. So we're going to figure out how we can make this animation changed a little bit so that arm is not just running into that canister and making it flip over. Because really, this is an animation from Mixamo. So Mixamo characters don't have a little canister there. So they don't have to worry about canisters on the hip, but we do. So for this, we're going to learn how we can edit animations here in the editor and change them. So let's do this. Now, I'm here in my Blueprints Characters Animations folder, right? And I'd like to see what happens if I simply change an animation. So I can open my Standing Melee Attack 360 animation here. And we've seen that we can move bones right here in the editor. If we select one of the bones in the skeleton hierarchy, such as the upper arm L, for example, if we rotate this bone, the arm will rotate with it. Now, we don't want to do that because that looks kind of funny, so I'm going to undo that. Now, you might think you could edit your animations this way. If I go ahead and move it up like that and click Save and close out of my Standing Melee Attack, you might expect to see that arm go up, but the truth is it doesn't happen like that. It's not quite that easy. If we go back into the 360 attack, the arm is not up in that weird angle like I moved it. But we can move bones and make that change stick in the animation by the use of keys. You might not have noticed, but there's a plus key here. And if we hover over it, it says Add Bone Transform to Additive Layer Tracks. That means we can transform the bones and make them stick into the animation. Now, when doing this, it can be a little tricky. We have to make sure that those bones go back to their correct locations once we're done moving them out of the way. So if I want to scrub through the animation to the point where the arm is pushing that canister up a little bit, I want to move the arm back a little so when it's going back to normal, it goes around the canister. So we can do that, but we have to make sure that it goes back exactly to the correct spot, because if we rotate this bone for this is the right arm, if we go to, say, upper arm R and select that bone, and we move it out of the way here so we can rotate it up a little bit, that's going to rotate that bone for the whole animation. So if I scrub back to the beginning, it may not be noticeable, but it is off by a little bit. Now, if you're okay with that, you could simply just keep that change. But I don't want to do that. So I'm going to close out of the animation and open it back up. And that change I made is now no longer there because we can see the hand flipping that canister so annoyingly. And we're going to fix that. But what I want to do is make sure that just before the problem area, I'm going to set a key to lock that transform into its correct spot right here. So I'm going to select my upper arm R bone and press plus key. And as soon as I do that, we now have this curve here. And if we double click on it, we see the upper arm and various aspects of its transform are here, such as translation and rotation. And it's locked to that point in the animation. And if I scrub through the animation to just after the problem point, right around here, I can add another key by clicking key. And now there are two keys here locking those positions. Now, this hasn't changed anything yet. What I want is to change the upper arm rotation right about here where it's colliding with the canister. So what I can do is rotate it out of the way a bit so it's not hitting the canister and adding a key here. Now notice something on this curve. One of those aspects of the upper arm's translation, notice it's bright green and we moved the bright green arc on the gizmo. It's changing right there. And if I double click, I can see that that upper arm has a rotational pitch value. So I changed its pitch for this particular keyframe and notice the curve that was created. It goes in a straight line up to this deviation from its normal pitch relative to the animation, and then it goes back at that last keyframe there. So we're changing the pitch in the animation. And if I scrub through the animation at this point, I'll see that it no longer moves that canister. It goes around the canister. And that's exactly what I wanted. So pressing play on the animation and just making sure, yeah, it looks like it's going out of the way of the canister. We're steering clear of it. Everything looks great. Now, if I click save, then this curve with these keys in it are going to stick to the animation. And we can go back into the level editor and start a pie session, grab a weapon and attack. And we're no longer flipping that canister around because we've edited the animation in the editor and it looks perfect. So now our coolest animation of the game is not flawed because we're not smacking into that little canister on the way back from the sword swing. So this is great. Now, you may want an animation that doesn't have any keys in it. And in that case, you could bake this change into a new animation. To do that, you go to Create Asset, Create Animation, Current Animation, and Preview Mesh. If you select that, you're asked where your new animation should go. So we can go to Blueprints, Characters, Animations, and we can call this Swing 360 and click OK. And now we have our new animation, and it doesn't have that key. It has all the other animation curves that came with this animation. Just ignore those. We can collapse that drop down, and we don't have those keys. So that's how you bake this change into its own animation. And then you could go into the attack montage and add it if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. I'm fine with my animation I'm using having those keys in it, but now you know how to bake that change into a new animation. And now you know how to edit animations here in the editor. So if you have an animation that just isn't quite looking right, you can edit it, add some keys. Just make sure that your pose is locked in by creating a window where you're locking the original transform of the bone you're changing before you go and change it. That way you're sure to get that bone back to its correct location at the end. So now you know how to edit animations in Unreal Engine.